Shalom, 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 beloved angelic family and Gentiles. Today we're going to get a little bit of information about the Cathars, the Catharian grid, and the Holy Grail. Let's get it. Copyright disclaimer. Under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976, fair use is invoked for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Fair use is permitted by copyright statute when an otherwise infringement may occur. Usages for nonprofit educational purposes tips the balance in favor of fair use. So in the past, in some of my previous videos, I went over the Cathar grid, but I really did not go into a lot of detail about the origin of the Cathar grid. So that's what I'm going to do today, and then end with the Holy Grail, okay? So the Cathar grid is the 12 Sephiroths. That's where it starts. And in these 12 Sephiroths, if you remember, they don't just stop at the 12, they continue out with the golden spiral. And then it's tied to Kathara, because that's the Catharans are where is where it originated. Now, the other tree of life, Sephiroth from Kabbalah and the Jewish people, that's all a part of the matrix. You got to, if our people start thinking more regarding positive and negative and how things flow through polarity, everything will start coming together and making sense. But right now, all they have is what the Gentiles, Psalms 83 nations, and the Jewish people have given them. But you got to think polarity, because everything is polarity in this matrix. That's why it's called a matrix, because you take one road and you get something different. You go down another road and you get something different. But the key is getting it from the beginning, okay? The Bible, as we know it, is not the beginning. That's something that came out of everything else that was here. So it was put together by the Catholics and the Council of Nicaea, and we know that those people were not doing anything in our best interest. And beloved Bijou just came out with a video where they were trying to explain in this movie, about the Inquisitions, being a part of the devil, and that they got into somebody and all of this garbage, okay? Because that's what it is, because wickedness is right. It's a balance of the right and the left, okay? So people do things that they do based on who they are and what is within them. So if we start realizing that you have the Kabbalah and you have the Catharians, you have the crystal spiral, the golden spiral, and you have the Fibonacci. And a lot of the people want to act as though, the English language isn't bastardized, perverted, and a hot mess. It is. When you really look at the word Fibonacci and what that is about, that Fibonacci spiral goes backwards and it eats up everything in front of it. It's a vampire, really. Okay? And when you look at the words to put together, is fib is a lie, not key. And chi is not chi, it's ki. Okay? It's ki or kai. Because when you look at, I used to say I Ching, but I realized it's not I Ching, it's I King. It's just the way that we've done it, that they bastardized the English language to make you say one thing and believe one thing when it's something totally different. So once we get past that and all the lies and deceptiveness and come out of that, and all the pretty talk, and all this love, love, love garbage, and start looking at reality and the truth, things will start coming to you, and you'll start seeing more than what you're seeing. So we're going to discuss this Cathar grid and what it's about. So, based on the books of remembrance, I realized that the angels and everything that was given to them, the names, was based on their jobs and what they did. It wasn't like they bastardized and did all the words. Oh, what's that word? I can't remember it right now. But how they did the all the names and everything. John the Baptist, Jacob, Isaac, all of these names, they were non-existence. It's like if I go someplace and I call my name, I was over in Italy for a while. My name was still the same. It didn't change to a different name. They didn't give me a different name. So all of these names were anglicized. That's what I was looking for, by the Vatican and the Psalms 83 nations. So they really have no meaning at all. Not the way that if you look in the book of remembrance and you see the names of the angelic beings and how the names fit their jobs were, what they were supposed to do. This is another part of the matrix. You take out the true meaning of things and you replace it with something else. And so it's up to you to search out the matter and find out the truth. And this is what we're going to look at with this Cathar. So if you remember, I went over this in the recent past video, about the Kathara, and the Ka refers to the four Hova bodies corresponding to dimensions 1 through 12, Nada, Alpha, Betcha, and Mahara Hova bodies. The Ka must be brought out of dormancy within the human manifestation template before the Emerald Awakening Kundalini activation can be orchestrated. The Ka becomes activated through removal of 4 inorganic seed crystal seal implants that block the natural function of the second, third, and fourth DNA strand temples. Ka equals light. So this is how you know that you're not just dealing with some thing that was pulled out of the air. It actually deals with light. It deals with the rays. Okay. So the Cathar grid of the Cathar 12 tree is also known as the tree of life. The word Kathara refers to the core structure of morphogenetic fields, the holographic templates of sound, light, and scalar waves that serve as a blueprint on which matter manifests. So we talked about scalar waves before, the scalar standing waves, the flashlight sequences, and it comes from the Latin word scalaris, from scale, which is stairs, ladder, or scale, having an uninterrupted series of steps capable of being represented by a point on a scale or related to a scalar or scalar point. So we know that when you're talking about scalar waves, you're talking about a series of steps, okay? So keep that in mind, because if you remember the ladder of Jacob, okay? So we're talking steps here. And then scalar waves are forms of consciousness. Scalar waves are standing wave points composed of quantities of conscious energy. This is what your Cathar grid is based on. So Ka means light, Tha means sound, and Ra means one. So Cathara, okay? The Cathar grid of the human body is the core holographic template upon which the morphogenetic scalar wave template and all other levels of identity and forms are built. It is a control center for manifestation of the human being. So holograms are manifestations of properties of light, how light is produced and transmitted, and how it interacts with itself. Okay, so that's what a hologram is. And the body, the human body, is a living holographic projection machine. As a neurological structure processes the DNA codes as electric impulses, the individual will perceive outside of himself as three-dimensional matter, the images and events that were programmed into the DNA. So what's in our DNA is in the DNA, and all of this poison of the food, the water, and all these things that they've been doing, the drugs, it has been to um, prevent what's going to happen with the DNA, because they've studied it for so long that they know that there are things that can interfere with the DNA. But when this system comes through, whatever is there that's interfering with the DNA will most likely be removed. So all of this fear garbage about the things that they've done, for the most part, it's not going to matter. So the holographic template is the original thought form construction upon which our universal structure is perpetually created. It doesn't eat anything up. That golden spiral, continually outward moves. It goes on and on and on. It's not like the Fibonacci key where it eats up everything that comes before it. All if you look at the pattern of the Fibonacci key, you'll notice that it devours every number that came before it. That's not what happens with the crystal spiral. The crystal spiral continues to spiral. It moves out. So the holographic template represents the living morphogenetic field, the dimensionalized blueprint of conscious light, sound, and scalar waves within the individuated consciousness is stationed, and upon the illusion of solidity is manifest. The human body is a living holographic projection machine. Consciousness is energy, and energy is conscious. So only those with the body that has a holographic template of light, those are the ones that's going to ascend. No other bodies will. So morphogenetic field is all matter, forms, and forms of consciousness, including planetary bodies and human bodies, are manifested through a morphogenetic, which is a form-holding imprint, which exists as a quantity of crystalline. That's why it's also called crystal body, electrotonal or electric tone, energetic substances that is composed of specific patterns of frequency. This morphogenetic imprint sets the pattern for a form within the 15-dimensional unified field of energy substance. The morphogenetic imprint holds the instructions and design form for form building in a type of digital or electronic encoding known as the Keylon code. If you go back and look at the other vids, you'll see what that is because we discussed that. So the morphogenetic fields are comprised by templates of conscious light and sound, which serves as blueprints on which matter, form, and conscious identity will manifest. This occurs microcosmically and macrocosmically. Therefore, the universe is one massive field of consciousness embracing and containing all other forms where all experiences of reality and manifestation takes place. The cosmic structure or order is the basis of human order and the human psyche in terms of the cosmic divine blueprint where experiential reality fields are created. of templates of energy divided into groups and energy patterns which form the morphogenetic structure of each and all 15 dimensions. Okay, so everything in the universe is based on this morphogenetic field. Our bodies are based on who you are. There's matter forms, which anything can be of matter, okay, and forms of consciousness. And then there's forms of consciousness. So we're dealing with two different things. We're dealing with the forms of matter, which is like material things, and then the forms of consciousness, which is divinity, which is spirituality. So here is your distinction between your cardinality and your spirituality. When you're dealing with matter and material things, you're dealing with carnal things. When you're dealing with divinity and consciousness, you're dealing with spiritual things, okay? So now let's look. I just wanted to give you another overview of this information because we kind of already went through this in earlier videos. So now we're going to look at the Cathars, okay? So many of you probably have not heard about the Cathars. Well, in fact, the Cathars were the people of our nation that were really wiped away from history. And they are the ones who the Catholic Church and the Psalms 83 nations didn't want their name to be anymore because the information that they acquired from them was abundance. I mean, there was an abundance of information obtained from them. In fact, basically all the information that they have was obtained from the Cathars. Okay, so let's look at who the Cathars are. The heretics were known by a variety of names. So what the Catholic Church did is they bastardized everyone who did not go along with what they wanted, okay? And they had inquisitions and they destroyed everyone that didn't go along with their program. And the Cathars were those people. So they called them Abbageseans and whatever else name it was. They said that in southern France in the 12th and 13th centuries, the name Abbageseans was given to them by the Council of Tours, Tours, in 1163, and that they kept that name towards the end of the 12th century, and then was for a long time applied to all heretics of the south of France. Heretics to them, heresy, what they said it was, so it was initially said to be a choice and the thing chosen, but it narrowed to the selection of religious or political doctrines, adhesion to parties in church or state. So that's what the Catholic Church did. They started changing everything to make them the head of whatever was said. Okay, and they ended up taking ecclesiastical jurisdiction over what they call heretics. So in 1165, the Cathars had been condemned by an ecclesiastical council at the Languedoc town of Albi, or the Albigensians. For this reason, or perhaps because Albi continued to be one of their centers, they were often called Albigensians. On other occasions, they were called Cathars, or Catharis, or Cathari. And you see they have it spelled with the C, but it was actually spelled with the K. They changed everything to hide whatever they could. In Italy, they were called the Pateranes. Not infrequently, they were also branded or stigmatized with the names of much earlier heresies, Arian, Marcionite, Machian. Albicene and Cathar were essentially generic names. In other words, they did not refer to a single coherent church like that of Rome, with a fixed, codified, and definite body of doctrine and theology. See, our people didn't have churches. we did not, we thought the church was the temple itself, and I'll show you that. The heretics in question comprise a multitude of diverse sects, many under direction of the independent leader whose followers would assume his name. So that's how things were, that's how they created things. Moreover, much of our information about the heretics derives from ecclesiastical sources like the Inquisition. And that's just pretty much like the popes governing themselves. Whatever they did and whatever they said, that's what it was. As wicked as they were and still are, people actually listen to those liars, those deceptive monsters. I don't get it. And still do. In the eyes of the Roman Church, the Cathars were committing serious heresies in regarding material creation, on behalf of which Jesus had supposedly died, as intrinsically evil, and implying that God, whose word had created the world in the beginning, was a usurper. And this is a Catholic Church. These are the monsters that have been running the world. Their most serious heresy, however, was their attitude towards Jesus himself. Since matter was intrinsically evil, the Cathars denied that Jesus could partake of matter, become incarnate in the flesh, and still be the Son of the Mighty One. By some Cathars, he was therefore deemed to be wholly incorporeal, a phantasm, or phantasm, an entity of pure spirit, which of course could not possibly be crucified. That whole line about dying 3 days and rising, all this garbage is garbage, because the Mashiach ascended. He ascended. There was no dying and then rising. No, no. This is what Catholics believe, and they put all of that crap in that book and switched things around. They did, and made it about them. They did everything that the Cathars stood for and represented, they destroyed and made a new system, their religion. The Cathars did not have a religion. Our people did not worship in no church buildings. The temple was the body. The majority of Cathars seem to have regarded him as a prophet no different from any other, a mortal being who, on behalf of the principle of love, died on the cross. There was, in short, nothing mystical, nothing supernatural, nothing divine about the crucifixion, if indeed it was relevant at all, which many Cathars appear to have doubted. In any case, all Cathars vehemently repudiated the significance of both the crucifixion and the cross, perhaps because they felt these doctrines were irrelevant, or because Rome extolled them so fervently, or because the brutal circumstances of a prophet's death did not seem worthy of worship, and the cross, at least in association with Calvary and the crucifixion, was regarded as an emblem of Rex Mundi, Lord of the material world, the very antithesis of the true redemptive principle. Jesus, if mortal at all, had been a prophet of Amor, the principle of love, and Amor, when inverted or perverted or twisted into power, became Rome, whose opulent, luxurious church seemed to the Cathars a palpable embodiment of manifestation on earth of Rex Mundi's sovereignty. In consequence, the Cathars not only refused to worship the cross, they also denied such sacraments as baptism and communion. The Cathars were also dualists. All Christian thought, of course, can ultimately be seen as dualistic, insisting on a conflict between two opposing principles, good and evil, spirit and flesh, higher and lower. But the Cathars carried this dichotomy much further than Orthodox Catholicism were prepared to. For the Cathars, men were the swords that spirits fought with, and no one saw the hands. For them, a perpetual war was being waged throughout the whole of creation between two irreconcilable principles, light and darkness, spirit and matter, good and evil. Catholicism posits one supreme God whose adversary, the devil, is ultimately inferior to him. There you go. There's your Christian church right there. Your church is worldwide. This is the garbage. Catholicism, hold on, let me see. The Cathars, however, proclaim the existence not of one God, but of two with more or less comparable status. One of these gods, the good one, was entirely disincarnate, a being or principle of pure spirit, unsullied by the taint of matter. He was the God of love, but the love was deemed wholly incompatible with power, and material creation was a manifestation of power. Therefore, for the Cathars, material creation, the world itself was intrinsically evil. All matter was intrinsically evil. The universe, in short, was the handiwork of a usurper God, the God of evil, or as the Cathars call him, Rex Mundi, the king of the world. Catholicism rests on what might be called an ethical dualism. Evil, though issuing ultimately perhaps from the devil, manifests itself primarily through man and his actions. In contrast, the Cathars maintained a form of cosmological dualism, a dualism that pervaded the whole of reality. For the Cathars, this was a basic premise, but their response to it varied from sect to sect. According to some Cathars, the purpose of man's life on earth was to transcend matter, to renounce perpetually anything connected with the principle of power, and thereby to attain union with the principle of love. According to other Cathars, man's purpose was to reclaim and redeem matter, to spiritualize and transform it. It is important to note the absence of a fixed dogma, doctrine, or theology. There was none. Not one time in the reading about the Cathars did that Bible ever come up. Never. I haven't seen anything that tied the Cathars to this Bible. I'm not going to go into the information about the Inquisitions because they did what they did when they arrived here in 1492 to the Americas. They did the exact same thing to the Cathars. And to tell you the truth, I truly believe that the Cathars were here in America, and I believe that that 1492 date is a lie. Now I'm going to get into a little bit about the Templars, the Knights Templars, but not a lot, because it said that the Knight Templars were the one that was protecting the Cathars. Okay, so it said that and that the Knights Templar, they did not believe in Jesus either. In fact, he was denounced. They denounced Jesus as a false prophet and acknowledged John as the true Messiah. In the course of their activities in the Middle East, the Templars undoubtedly established contact with Johannite sects, and the possibility of Johannite tendencies in the order is not altogether unlikely. But one cannot say that such tendencies obtained for the order as a whole, nor that they were a matter of official policy. So they don't really know how deep the connection with the Cathars were as far as going through any of the rituals and anything that they did. During the interrogations following the arrest in 1307, a head also figured in two other connections. So it's talking about some heads that they found. I'm not going to go into everything about it, okay? Because it's a lot of information, and I made this video twice, and I'm trying to cut it down some, okay? According to the Inquisition records, among the confiscated goods of the Paris preceptory, a reliquary in the shape of a woman's head was found. It was hinged on top and contained what appeared to have been relics of a peculiar kind. It is described as follows: a great head of gilded silver, most beautiful, and constituting the image of a woman. Inside were two headphones wrapped in a cloth of white linen, with another red cloth around it. A label was attached on which was written the legend Caput LVIIM. And so that was a date. I looked it up, but I'm not going to go into it. The bones inside were those of a rather small woman, a curious relic, especially for a rigidly monastic military institution like the Templars. Yet a knight under interrogation, when confronted with this feminine head, declared it had no relation to the bearded male head used in the order's rituals. The caput, LV triple IM, head 58M, I guess that's the number of the relic, remains a baffling enigma. But it is worth noting that the M may not be an M at all, but the sign of the astrological symbol for Virgo. The head figures again in another mysterious story traditionally linked with the Templars. It is worth quoting in one of its several variants. So I'm not going to go into that, but I'm going to leave it here so that you guys can have it. So things were going on with the Templars. You know, they were protected. They were protecting the Cathars, and then they started digging up all of these relics that they had. So you know those Gentile Psalms 83 nations in that Catholic Church, they monetize everything. And trust me, they made no um, uh, qualms about monetizing the Templars. So the Templars are in France. This legacy is particularly powerful. Indeed, the Templars are veritable industry in France, as much as Glastonbury, ley lines, or the Loch Ness Monster are in Britain. In Paris, bookstores are filled with histories and accounts of the order, some valid, some plunging enthusiastically into lunacy. During the last quarter century or so, a number of extravagant claims have been advanced on behalf of the Templars, some of which may not be wholly without foundation. Certain writers have credited them, at least in large part, with the building of the Gothic cathedrals, or at least with providing an impetus of some sort to that burst of architectural energy and genius. Other writers have argued that the order established commercial contact with the Americas as early as 1269 and derived much of its wealth from imported Mexican silver. But they didn't. They got their wealth from the Cathars. It has frequently been asserted that the Templars were privy to some sort of secret concerning the origins of Christianity. So you know they had to be wiped off the planet, okay? You know that, right? They had some secret about Christianity that they had to go. The Catholic Church weren't gonna let that go though. Just like the Cathars, the Templars were wiped out. They were burned at the stake. They set those people on fire and did not think anything about it. And to this day, have not admitted the atrocities of the past. None of them. It has been said that they were Gnostic, that they were heretical, that they were defectors to Islam. There you go. It has been declared that they sought a creative unity between bloods, races, and religions, a systematic policy of fusion between Islamic, Christian, and they did not, because they didn't even believe in Christianity, because the Cathars had nothing to do with Christianity. This is a bunch of lies right here. See, this is where Gentiles start throwing their own buffoonery in there. So they maintained nearly 8 centuries ago that the Templars were guardians of the Holy Grail, whatever the Holy Grail might be. And we're going to talk about that. The claims are often ridiculous. At the same time, there are unquestionable mysteries associated with the Templars, and as we became convinced, secrets of some kind as well. It was clear that some of these secrets pertain to what is now called esoterica. Symbolic carvings and Templar precipitories, for instance, suggest that some officials in the order's hierarchy were conversant with such disciplines as astrology, alchemy, sacred geometry, and numerology, as well, of course, as astronomy, which in the 12th and 13th centuries was inseparable from astrology and every bit as esoteric. There you go. Now we're gonna get we're gonna get to the nitty-gritty of this whole situation with these Catholic churches and all these monsters that are associated with them. So the Catholic Church, and what it always does, it makes up lies and opportunities to extinguish people through inquisitions and burning them at the stake, and you know what they did over here, putting people in prison, making them their prisoners until further said, and then they turn around and act as though, oh, that wasn't us. You know, some devil made the man do it. No, 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 no. This is them historically. This is their MO. This is a way that they have always done things. And they did it with the Cathars, and then they turned around and they did it with the Templars. We began with the end of the story, the fall of the order and the charges leveled against it. Many books have been written exploring and evaluating the possible truth of these charges, and from the evidence, we, like most researchers, conclude there seems to have been some basis for them. Subjected to interrogation by the Inquisition, for example, a number of knights referred to something called Baphomet. Here we go. Too many, and in too many different places for Baphomet to be the invention of a single individual or even a single preceptory. At the same time, there is no indication of who or what Baphomet might have been, what he or it represented, why he or it should have had any special significance. It would appear that Baphomet was regarded with reverence, a reverence perhaps tantamount to idolatry. In some instances, the name is associated with the gargoyle-like, demon-like sculptures found in various precipitories. On other occasions, Baphomet seems to be associated with the apparition of a bearded head. Despite the claims of certain older historians, it seems clear that Baphomet was not a corruption of the name Muhammad. On the other hand, it might have been a corruption of the Arabic Baphomet, pronounced in Moorish Spanish as Baphomet. Baphomet. This means father of understanding or father of wisdom, and father in Arabic is also taken to imply source. We're going to get to the nitty gritty today, because all of the lies that these people have been telling, oh yeah, we're going to get it. Let's get it. If this is indeed the origin of Baphomet, it would therefore refer presumably to some supernatural or divine principle. But what might have differentiated Baphomet from any other supernatural to divine principle remains unclear. If Baphomet was simply God or Allah, why did the Templars bother to re-Christian him? See, they said it was re-Christian. This had nothing to do with Christianity, because the Christianity was brought on board by the Catholic Church. These people didn't know anything about no damn Christians. And if Baphomet was not God or Allah, who or what was it? What was he? Yeah. These people bastardize everything that they don't understand, and everything don't fall into line with their buffoonery. And that's what they've been doing. Nothing different. Nothing different. Same sun, different day. I put the whole page 71 on here and part of 72, but I'm not going to read it. I'm actually going to start down at the bottom of page 72. But there was some interesting information in here, and I wanted you guys to see it if you wanted to read it, okay? So I'm going to start down the second paragraph from the bottom. The cord mentioned in the last item is reminiscent of the Cathars, who were also led to have worn a sacred cord of some kind. I'm telling you, this is where the Catholics got all of their traditions and everything they did. They stole this stuff from the Cathars and they wiped them out. But most striking in the list is the head's purported capacity to engender riches, make trees flower, and bring fertility to the land. These properties coincide remarkably with those ascribed in the romances to the Holy Grail. We're going to get there. Of all the charges leveled against the Templars, the most serious were those of blasphemy and heresy. This is what it was. They charged them with blasphemy and heresy, of denying, trampling, and spitting on the cross. That's what they did. And so what did they do? They set them on fire. They hang them. That's what they did. They did the exact same thing to them that they did to the Cathars and that they have been doing since the 1100s. This is nothing new. These people are monsters and they will never change. And our people stuck in those churches thinking, talking this love everybody garbage, you better wake the hell up. Because these people have been doing this. This has not changed. They have been lying and our people still stuck in those damn churches with all that buffoonery. Now, this is Gentiles, Psalms 83 nations, and the Catholics. Here we go, because they always spawning something off of our people. At least 3 contemporary organizations today call themselves Templars, claiming to possess a pedigree from 1314 and charters whose authenticity has never been established. There you go. Certain Masonic lodges have adopted the grade of Templar as well as rituals and appellations supposedly descended from the original order. Towards the end of the 19th century, a sinister order of the New Templars was established in Germany and Austria, employing the swastika as one of its emblems. But some of us know what the swastika really is, that it came from our people. Figures like H.B. Blavatsky, founder of Theosophy, and Rudolf Steiner, founder of Anthroposophy, spoke of esoteric wisdom tradition running back through the Rosicrucians to the Cathars and Templars, who were purportedly repositories of more ancient secrets still. In the United States, teenage boys are admitted into the de Molay Society without either they or their mentors having much notion whence the name derives. In Britain as well as elsewhere in the West, recondite Rotary clubs dignify themselves with the same Templar and include eminent public figures. From the heavenly kingdom he sought to conquer with his sword. Hugues de Payan must now look down with a certain weary perplexity on the latter-day knights, balding, paunched, and bespectacled, that he engendered. And yet he must also be impressed by the durability and vitality of the legacy. But they did exactly what they always do. They pick up, they're never who they say they are. They always pick up the rituals, the actions, the drawings, the architecture of others, never creating anything of their own, never have and never will. So the story is that the Cathars were mass murdered, Inquisition, burned, lynchings, whatever they did before, they did it again. It's not like it was something new. But they said that some, maybe four of the Cathars escaped. So, according to tradition, the four men carried with them the legendary Cathar treasure. So there was a treasure, but the Cathar treasure had been smuggled out of the Montsegur 3 months before, because the story goes that four men had gone at nighttime. They said four men, they weren't sure, but four men went during the night and took the treasure out before they were completely wiped out. Okay. And how much treasure, in any case, how much gold, silver, or coin could there could three or four men carry on their backs dangling from ropes on the sheer mountainside? If the four escapees were indeed carrying something, it would seem clear that they were carrying something other than material wealth. Okay, what might they have been carrying? Accoutrements of the Cathar faith, perhaps books, manuscripts, teachings, relics, religious objects. They didn't have a religion. That's Gentile stuff right there. Or some kind, perhaps something which, for one reason or another, could not be permitted to fall in hostile hands. That might explain why an escape was undertaken, an escape that entails such risk for everyone involved. But if something of so precious a nature had at all costs to be kept out of hostile hands, why was it not smuggled out before? Why was it not smuggled out with the bulk of the material treasure 3 months previously? Why was it retained in the fortress until the last and most dangerous moment? So the precise date of the truce permitted us to deduce a possible answer to these questions. It had been requested by the defenders, who voluntarily offered hostages to obtain it. For some reason, the defenders seemed to have deemed it necessary, even though all it did was delay the inevitable for a mere 2 weeks. So there was a treasure. They don't know what that treasure was. Um, But here it says, perhaps we conclude such a delay was necessary to purchase time, not time in general, but that specific time, that specific date. It coincided with the spring equinox, and the equinox may well have enjoyed some ritual status for the Cathars. What? It also concluded with Easter, but the Cathars was questioned who questioned the relevance of crucifixion ascribed no particular importance to Easter. They didn't. And yet it is known that a festival of some sort was held on March 14, the day before the truce expired. So there was something going on with the Cathars that was going on with the Druids and all of the people. So the Cathars were our people as well as the Druids. But let me give you this bit of information. The others called the Cathars the perfect, okay? And we know that the church could not, the Catholics could not have anybody walking around looking like us that they called the perfects, which is the reason that they subjugated us to the low so that we would not think of ourselves as anything but lowly people, okay? But the Cathars were the perfects. The perfect were the austere, the top level Cathars, who were effectively the movement's priests. So these were the people who were the priests, and austere or austere was the severe or strict, that they were strict in manner, attitude, or appearance. So they were strict. They were the priests of the Cathars, and they were called the perfect. Can't have priests being called a perfect now, can we? Both Cathars and Bogomils held the perfect in the highest regard. The Bogomils is another group, another name that we're given, okay? They were seen as embodying the Holy Spirit, the Holy Ruach, being the living church itself. They were seen as nothing less than living icons. Who was that? Who was that? They were seen as embodying the Holy Spirit, the Holy Ruach. It wasn't them. These people didn't even, they didn't want anything to do with that. You never hear them talk about a Holy Spirit or anything. They want nothing to do with that. The Cathars, the perfect, the priests were the living church itself, the being, the living church itself. There was no building. They didn't go to buildings to talk to the mighty one. They didn't. They went under trees, just like the Druids did. Same people. These were our people. They were done the same way that happened here and what they say was 1492. But let me tell you this. Many have suggested that the treasures were left in a cave. When the mighty one said that we would leave captivity with great substance, I never thought that it was anything financial. I never did that. I always thought that it would be knowledge. It would be knowledge. I don't know why. That's the thing that popped up in my head. It was never anything about any money. I don't know why. I guess because I just always looked at that money as something that was needed because we were here. And I wasn't awakened, but that's the only way I ever saw it. Those of you who have been following me from the beginning know what my dream was about the Zohar and the Zohar and the letters switching places. Well, I found that information about 3, 4 years ago, but I haven't presented it because it wasn't the right time. I just didn't feel like I had everything I needed. But now, after getting this book that I recently received a few days ago, I was able to put everything together. So let's look at the Zohar and see what it says. With the Zohar, and this way it's here is written, it is written differently. It gives scripts, but it was written differently at that time. The scriptures they were presented differently. So the first scripture is Joshua 15:33. I think that's what that says. And then I don't know what that other is, OM 1941, but Judges 13:2. But a lot of the scripts and the precepts have been changed, and they weren't called scriptures before. They were called scriptures. I'll have to find that information, but it wasn't scriptures initially. They changed it at some point. But then you have a town allotted to Judah, according to Joshua 15:33, but elsewhere spoken of as Danite, Joshua 19:41, Judges 18:2, 8, and 11. So as you notice that Zorah was a town that was allotted to Judah. And then you have it was fortified by Rehoboam 2, chapter 11:10, and is mentioned in Nehemiah 11:29 or 1. I'm not sure about the number, as peopled by the Judahites after the captivity. And the Gentile name Zorathites occur in 1 chapter 2, 6, 3. So the Zorathites were Gentiles, but Zorah was where the Jehudites were, okay? So that's the Zorah. If you notice, there's nothing in here that says anything about Jewish people. That's because the book where I found this was written before the Jews took the land in 1948. And therefore, this book was one that was probably overlooked because they went through great lengths to delete everything about the Jews, about the Cathars, anyone that had anything to do with us. They deleted the information, rewrote it, and put in what they wanted to put in. So a lot of people still live by that Bible, thinking that that's it. But if that was all the information, there would have been no reason for them to leave out the other books. And then I don't believe that the other disciples were men. I think they were women, and I believe that's why they left them out of the book. But that's me, okay? Because the Cathars had men and women priests. It wasn't just men, okay? In fact, they even back during that time spoke about the divine feminine. I'm going to read it real quick. See, a lot of people think that these concepts are new. They're not new. The concept of the divine feminine suggests another link between the two movements. The perfect, upon being consoled, were given the title of Theotokos, which means God bearer, and assignation usually associated with the Virgin Mary. See, that's the Catholics. They were on that Virgin Mary kick. And then the Knights Templar were the most powerful military religious order of the day and were major landowners in the Languedoc, while theory suggesting that the Kathara treasure, whatever its nature, was entrusted to the Templars remain fanciful. So you see the divine feminine, a lot of the language that's being said today, it was going on back to the 1100s, long before what happened over here in 1492 or the inquisitions of 1475. All those dates, that all lies, just all lies. So Zohar is the modern Surah on the northern side of Wadi es-Surah, the valley of Sorek, opposite Ain Shims, Beth Shemesh. You see that Ain Shims? We know Ain Sof, or, but we have Ain Shims here. And it's not Ames. See, I believe this is where the anti-Semitic Semitism, all of this garbage came in because, see, if you notice, this is about Shem. This has nothing to, and this is about the Yehudites. This has nothing to do about Jewish people and anti Semitics. It has nothing to do with that garbage. Okay, let's look at Zohar. Father of Ephron the Hittite, Genesis 23:8, 25, and 9. 2. The name of a Semonite family, Genesis 46 and 10, Exodus 6:15, called in Numbers 26:13, and 1 chapter 4:24, Zerah in former and latter. Number 3, the name of a Yehudite family, according to the Kari of 1 chapter 4 and 7. And that Kari, it has a lot to do with the Anunakites, the Nunakites, okay? So if you want to read that, I suggest look it up and get it because it's on there. And Zohar, which was followed in the authorized version of 1611, the Kathar, in which modern editions of the authorized version appears as Jazor, an incorrect transliteration, and in the revised version as Ishar. You see how they start changing things? But still, if you notice, there's nothing in here about Jewish people or that anti-Semitic nonsense. Nothing in here about any Jewish people. That's because the Zohar had nothing to do with Jewish people, nothing whatsoever. Because what they did was they burned the books, they changed everything, went back and marked out stuff, took out things that they couldn't change, whitewashed, blackwashed, whatever kind of wash they wanted to do is what they did. This stuff goes way back. These people have been lying for a long time. Now that we know that the Zohar has nothing to do with the Jewish people, we're going to look at the Zohar and the Kabbalah. The Kabbalah has nothing to do with the Jewish people either. Neither the Zohar nor the Kabbalah. The Zohar is about our people. The Yehudites had the information, but I think it pertained to every tribe. And I think the only reason that they had it within the Yehudite tribe is because that's where the Hamashiach, that's the tribe of the Hamashiach, okay? The Zohar is far more than a mere commentary on the Torah. It is the very heart of Kabbalah, but there was no Kabbalah. It is really the heart of the Cathars, the Catharians, the Cathars, okay? The ancient spiritual science that is both literally and metaphorically a key to understanding the very principles governing the whole of creation, both seen and unseen, divine and demonic, from the blinding stellar heights of enlightenment to the deepest depths of ignorance. Global events and the general malaise of our times have made many of us increasingly aware of the aching need, both within and without, for change, transformation, for some kind of genuine metaphysical and ethical system to replace what has been a moral and spiritual void. Well, they are morally and spiritually void, okay? There's the only spiritual beings on this planet are the people of the mighty one. That's it. The ones that they have spent their time whiting out, blacking out of history. The ones that they have been mass murdering and burning during inquisitions. That is no one but the melanated beings, the one who they have left out of everything and tried to act as though we don't even exist on this earth. However, they've continued to jail our people and to kill them. So let's not get it twisted. This has nothing to do with these people who call themselves Jewish or Kabbalah. Nothing whatsoever. Everything that they have is stolen. For we live in an age where even the fundamental elements of spiritual philosophy have become meaningless. There's a reason for that. But we also yearn for a system that would make sense of the horrors, chaos, fear, and uncertainty surrounding us in the neighborhood of our nation, this new dark age that has seemingly enveloped the world. Although the Zohar was revealed by Rabbi Yochiel, whatever it is, during the times of the destruction of the Second Temple, the wisdom of Kabbalah that, excuse me, that he then shared was known and used by many people before him. It was used by Adam, by the patriarchs, and by Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Moses also understood and practiced the Kabbalah, as have many other great historic figures. It is the source of all spiritual knowledge, and no matter by which name it may have been known, there has never been a time when it did not exist to provide humanity with the means to understand the nature of reality and to fulfill life's purpose. Part that's true, part's a lie. First of all, they found this in a cave. I believe that cave was in Utah because that's where, based on the research that's been gathered by the brethren, that's where the Yehudites were. I believe it's part of the reason that they've cut off that area from our people. They don't want us down there. These people have been lying from day one. The Cathars, I believe, were here. And I definitely believe it was in Utah. When I found out that these were found, when I learned that this information was discovered in a cave, it made perfect sense based on the historical findings by our people. The brethren have really put a lot of information out about the history. These people have been lying all along. This information, they changed the name. As he said, it goes by many names, Kabbalah, or whatever, Kubai, or whatever they want to call it. But this is the Cathars. Everything about the Catharian grid, all of the information about the Merkaba, the spears, everything they stole from there. They took all of this information because that's what this information entails. And they had none of this information before that time. They backdated books, and they will do it. They will backdate documents at the drop of a dime, and they will lie to your face. So everything that we're learning about this is a lie. Let's read a little bit about the Cathars and the Holy Grail. Perhaps the most enduring myth about the Cathars is that they possess the Holy Grail, the cup said to have been used by Christ at the Last Supper, which also caught drops of his blood at the crucifixion. Although, as will be noted below, modern writers have managed to get a greater idea of mileage out of the Grail. They did not invent the Cathar Grail myth. It originated in the 12th and 13th centuries while Catharism was still very much alive. So if there was something about a Holy Grail and the Catholic Church heard about it, what do you think they thought about that? Do you think they were going to just let that go? A Holy Grail? Nah. Now, those Catholics, they had to have that. Oh, no. There was no way. When the Holy Grail, the information about the Holy Grail was surfacing the earth, the Cathars were still alive. And the Catholics knew about it. We know that the Grail has been portrayed as a cup. We know they said it was the womb of the Virgin Mary. We know there's been a whole bunch of lies going out circulating, to cause confusion and deceptiveness. And it was all put out there by, those Catholics. They put it out there. But we're going to find out today what now they're saying that the Holy Grail really is. I told you guys that about my dream, and I told you that I was waiting on a book to come in, that I had a book come in last week. Well, the book was one of the Zohars. It was one of the volumes out of the 24 volumes of the Zohar. And I'd had that dream, about 4 years ago about the letters changing on the Zohar and didn't fully get it. But when I started reading that book, it made perfect sense. I found something in there very unexpected, but it brought everything together because I had no idea when I was going to talk about that dream again and put everything together, because I had put most of it together in my mind, but I don't know, I just felt like something was still missing. And when I got the book last week, I understood. So this is from one of the pages from the Zohar. This is not me. Okay, this is from the Zohar itself. The mighty one, the angelic beings gave me the dream. I had no clue what it was. I wasn't even awake during that time. I was just waking up. So this is what was given to me. I didn't have anything to do with this, but I had been waiting for this book. The idea that Hebrew is exclusively for the Jewish people. Now we start talking about the Jewish people. If you notice throughout this whole lesson, there's nothing in here about the Jewish people. But now that things have had an opportunity to turn around and they've had an opportunity to doctor up the books and the records, now we go in on the Jewish people. It's from a Zoharic viewpoint. So the idea that Hebrew is exclusively for Jewish people is from a Zoharic viewpoint. Okay, a misconception of the language's inherent purpose. So now we know that without a doubt Hebrew was the language, okay, because they felt some kind of way about this, and it's coming from a Zoharic viewpoint. Okay, so we know that the Zohar, they claim the Zohar, but they have nothing to do with the Zohar. It has nothing to do with them. They don't even have clarity, understanding about the Zohar, the light, the emanations. They don't have that knowledge. The objective of Hebrew, now they're going to tell us, the Jewish are going to tell us the objective of Hebrew, okay, is to provide our thought consciousness with an opportunity to reveal itself. That's what Hebrew is. That's what they're telling us. It may be true because it's talking about consciousness, right? So it may be, but this is what we're getting from them. The Zohar describes how our thoughts ultimately become manifested in the spoken word. How our thoughts instantaneously converted into vocal manifestations. Process seems to be completely robotic. See, here we go. So how our thoughts instantaneously converted into vocal manifestations, the process seems to be completely robotic. It is beyond question that speakers apply no conscious thought to each word that leaves their mouths. They never truly think about which word to use or what word will be coming next. Where do these words come from then? They appear to be from a prepared text or cassette which has been established in our mental computer. So we have the mental computer. If we didn't, we wouldn't have the creativity that we have. The creativity to design, the creativity in music, the lyrics, the dance, everything about melanated people is about creativity. So we know at some point when it talks about the mental computer, it must be talking about something that's rhythmic in us. It's not just robotic. It's more robotic. They're the robots, or should I say the vampires that suck up all the knowledge and information from others. We don't need to do that because we can design anything when it's put in the right setting, which is the reason that they keep our frequencies so low. This is the purpose for low frequency, the subjugation, all of this rhetoric on TVs, blessing our minds with fear. And all. This is the reason for all this, staying on the job 24/7, all these long hours, and everything is about materialism and money, 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 because this blocks the higher level of mental thinking, which gets to this point in the creativity. They know this. Okay, so this is why they do what they do. The killing of George Floyd on television, all of these things they do. It's all robotic because they're the robots that are playing out their scripts. Okay, this is what they're doing. To consider Hebrew the language of the Jew exclusively is a complete corruption and should be considered a ploy by Satan to prevent the flow of the awesome power of the light force of the mighty one. If your light or something didn't click or perk up in that sentence alone, something is wrong. Because there are a couple problems with this sentence right here. To consider Hebrew the language of the Jew exclusively. Why would that even come out? Why would that even be said here? Why? Because they're not the Jew. They are the Jewish people. And as I told you before, everything works on polarity. Where there's one, there's an opposite one. Where there's a good, there's an evil. Everything has to be, there has to be a balance, and it's up to you to balance those things and to find out the truth. And you can't find out the truth if you never pick up a book. You cannot find out the truth if you stay in those books that they gave us, because the truth is not, all of the truth is not in those books. And it's all based on, the thing about the Bible is that there's a polarity there because there's two. Bi means two, okay? So when you look at the Bible, you must understand that there's polarity in that book. There's different types of messiahs, saviors. There's exoteric knowledge and esoteric knowledge, okay? There's carnal knowledge and there is spiritual knowledge. You have to be able to pick that up because it's a Bible, okay? To consider Hebrew the language of the Jew exclusively is a complete corruption and should be considered a ploy by Satan to prevent the flow of the awesome power of the light force of the mighty one. All praise to the mighty one on his light force, the energy, the rays, the energy of the rays that they can't deal with. And they're going to tell you right here. They're telling you that right here. It is only when we employ the Hebrew language that we can be assured of a proper connection with the light force of the tree of life reality. Oh man, I could elaborate on, but I'm not, because this is the reason I kept redoing it, because it was long and I wanted to cut it down. So let me go on. As explained previously, the cosmos contains a great deal of positivity and negativity. Here's your polarity here. You got to know this. That constantly bombards the brain mechanism and confuses us. What? What the hell? Come on with it now. Come on with the truth. Come on. Let me read this again. I didn't make this up. As explained previously, the cosmos contains a great deal of positivity and negativity that constantly bombards the brain mechanism and confuses us. It does. It confuses them. It has to, because they cannot take the solar rays, the cosmic rays, and the solar winds. And all of this comes from the solar rays, because the cosmic rays, because when those cosmic rays transmute, they go through, they come to the earth and they come to the brain and the body. They hit those spheres, those chakras. They do. And it's going to hit you positively or negatively. This is what they're talking about. They're telling you about the cosmic rays right here. They're telling you how it affects them. This is the reason for the boxes on the head. Come on now. Oh, praises to the mighty one. When a reader, scanner of the Holy Grail, they're calling the Zohar the Holy Grail. I didn't say this. This is what they wrote, and it's in this book loud and clear. And they tell you to scan the pages of the Zohar. This is why they tell you that. When a reader, scanner of the Holy Grail meditates with a desire, this is again, we're talking about desire, to become connected with the tree of life reality, There is much going on between the confusing terrestrial realm and the reality without chaos. See, the chaos is in the lower realm. It's where all of the root chakra, the sacral, the the solar plexus. All of this is chaos because you're dealing with a lot of mental, physical, the astral. You're dealing with a lot of stuff. Okay, so the lower mental, all of this is what is going on with this, and that's why they're telling. I'm telling you, this is a lot. I mean, just in this page alone is telling a lot. What is then required is a cable or channel. This is why they wear these boxes on their head that will not be subject to the invasion of outside influences. They're calling the cosmic rays outside influences. You better recognize when our thought consciousness wishes to connect with the flawless universe of the tree of life, the Kabbalah tree of life. This is how they connect to their tree of life. It is their tree, their reality. The Kabbalah tree of life is their reality. When I told you that they cannot get to the abyss of knowledge, they cannot. They can only stay at certain realms. They cannot go any further. They cannot go to the some of them not even the eighth or ninth realm. The realms they can't make it there. This is their tree of life. Their tree of life of reality is the Kabbalah. Okay, the real tree of life is the Cathar grid because it's based on growth, expansion. The Kabbalah is not, which is the reason that they continue to repeat atrocities, historical atrocities. This is why they keep repeating the same thing. This is the why it's in this endless time loop. And they have to repeat it because there's no place else for them to go. And in order for them to repeat and repeat and repeat, they have to keep us in a state of chaos. They have, and the chaos for us is in the lower realms. It's in on the job. It's the prison system, the bastardizing of the food and everything, the sex drives, all of this homosexuality, the promotion of that. All of this is the chaos that they want because it keeps them comfortable. We got to people we must wake up to the truth and rise above what's taking place on the earth and return to the mighty one. All praises to the mighty one. Much love and respect to the divine Ruach. Love to the Hamashiach. Shalom, beloved angelic. Shalom, shalom, Gentiles. Okay, so before I close, I wanted to go back and see what this was about the strictures, but they were scriptures, but it was in reference to how the Cathars did not get involved with the tithes and the penances and the strictures, the strictness of the church, and other impositions by the Roman church. So they didn't fall under the Roman church. They did what they wanted to do the way that they did it based on what they believed. And of course, that means annihilation. The Catholic Church can't deal with that. All right, beloved, I'm going to close now. This is definitely long enough. All right. All praises to the mighty one. Much devotion to the divine Ruach. Love to the Hamashiach. Shalom, 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 beloved angelics and Gentiles.